Relax. The universe is playing with itself. You see, the trouble begins the moment you take life too seriously. You clutch at meaning, claw at certainty, and cling to the illusion that you are a stranger in this world, a visitor trying to survive in a place that doesn't belong to you. But you are not a foreigner here. You are not some isolated consciousness trapped in a sack of skin. You are the very process, the unfolding, the movement of the universe, looking at itself through a particular lens. Relax, because all this, the trees, the sky, the thoughts running through your mind, even your doubts, are not foreign to you. They are you. The cosmos, in its infinite playfulness, has taken form as you for a little while, just to see what it's like to be someone with your name, your smile, your struggles, and your laughter, but the essence, the core, the origin, it's all the same thing. It's a game of hide and seek, of pretending and remembering. You've been taught to believe that life is a task to be managed, a problem to be solved, or a mission to be completed. But life isn't a problem, it's a performance, a dance. And the point of dancing isn't to arrive at a final step. The point of music isn't to reach the last note. In the same way, the point of life isn't to get somewhere, accomplish something, or fix yourself. The point is to be here, completely, to feel the rhythm, to laugh at the absurdity, to be stunned by the beauty of it all. And above all, to realize that you're not separate from the dance. You are the dance. Imagine just for a moment that everything happening around you and within you is not a mistake, not a punishment, not a test. What if it's all just play? What if the universe, in its boundless intelligence, chose to forget itself for a while? To become a billion stars, a trillion cells, a chorus of lives and stories, all for the thrill of rediscovering what it always was. And what if your life, with all its chaos and confusion, is part of that magnificent cosmic joke? When a child plays, they laugh, they cry, they imagine great dangers and magical lands, but they do not mistake any of it for reality. It is real in the moment, but not serious. That's the key. Real, but not serious. And this is the wisdom we forget as we grow older. We begin to think that if we don't control everything, it will all fall apart. We think if we don't worry, we'll lose everything. But have you noticed, even in your most chaotic moments, something keeps you breathing. Something carries you through. Something flows, no matter how much you resist. And that something, that unnameable mystery, is the very universe you are trying to manage. You are trying to control the wave when you are the wave. You are trying to capture the wind when you are the wind. You want to make sense of it all, but perhaps it was never meant to be figured out. Maybe it was only ever meant to be experienced. Relax, because all the seriousness is an act. All the pressure is imagined. When you stop striving, when you release your grip and lean back into the moment, what do you find? Peace, presence, play. You start to see the humor in it, the beauty, the irony. You watch your thoughts come and go like birds across a wide sky. You notice how the trees sway, not because they must, but because they can. And so can you. It's funny, isn't it? We sit here thinking we must earn rest, fight for happiness, prove our worth. But who told you that? Who sold you that idea? The clouds don't ask for permission to float. The sun doesn't need a reason to shine. So why do you? If you are part of all this, and you are then maybe, just maybe, your role is not to solve the game, but to play it well, to cry deeply, laugh loudly, and love freely, knowing that it all ends the same way it began, in silence, in stillness. So relax, dear listener. The universe isn't against you. You are not separate from the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself. This idea is not merely poetic, nor is it a comforting metaphor to get us through hard days. It is a truth that lies at the very core of existence, a realization that strikes like a bell in the silence of our awareness. From the moment you were born, you were told that you are an individual, a name, a role, a body, and a history. You were given a label and taught that everything outside of that label was other. But the mind that begins to question soon sees the illusion. If everything outside you is the universe, and you are inside the universe, where exactly does you end and it begin? What we call the self is not a thing. It's a process, a happening, a flow. And that flow is not apart from the rest of existence. It is an inseparable movement of it. Just like waves are not separate from the ocean, you are not separate from the whole. The wave may appear to have its own shape, its own rise and fall, but it is made entirely of ocean. It cannot be removed, cannot exist alone, cannot survive in isolation. Likewise, your thoughts, your emotions, your body, and your sense of identity arise out of a context, a field, a background, a deeper rhythm that you do not control, yet which you are. You are not the wave alone. You are the ocean waving. The breath you take is borrowed from the trees. The heat in your body comes from the fire of the sun. The water in your blood was once the rain, and the iron in your veins came from stars that died long before this planet was born. Even your thoughts are not truly yours. They are shaped by language, culture, and memory, none of which you created. And yet, despite all this, you say, "This is me." But what is that me, really? A boundary drawn in sand by a mind that has forgotten it. Is the sand, the wind, and the hand. The notion of separateness is powerful because it gives us the experience of being someone, of having a center, a point of view, a story. But that story is not the full truth. It's a role being played by something much larger, something timeless, something that never had a name. When you touch the truth of this, even briefly, everything begins to change. You begin to see life not as a hostile environment to survive, but as a magnificent drama to witness and enjoy. You are no longer the actor fighting to control the play. You are the playwright, the stage, the light, and the audience. You are the playwright, the stage, the light, and the audience. You are the playwright, the stage, the light, and audience. When a child plays make-believe, they do not need to forget who they are to become the king or the wizard or the explorer. They know they're playing. The joy comes from pretending. But we, as adults, forget that we are pretending. We begin to believe we really are this isolated self, struggling to survive, worried about the future, haunted by the past. We take it all so seriously. We forget we are actors in a cosmic theater, improvising scenes we didn't write, but are blessed to perform. We forget that behind the mask of identity is the formless, the eternal, the playful source of all existence. This realization doesn't come through logic alone. It comes through stillness, through attention, through a sudden laugh when you see the absurdity of trying so hard to be somebody. Who are you trying to be? And to whom? You are already the miracle. You don't need to strive for significance. You are significance in motion. The universe didn't make a mistake when it became you. It didn't mess up or get confused. It created you with deliberate chaos, with divine uncertainty, to taste its own flavor through your eyes, your pain, your longing, your joy. Think about it. Why would something infinite and complete need to do anything at all? Why create galaxies, planets, trees, music, love and war? Why create you? Because pure being enjoys the play. Not in a malicious sense, not in a careless way, but in the same way a dancer enjoys movement, or a painter enjoys color. You are an artwork in progress, not a problem to be fixed. You are not lost. You are simply deeply involved in the game. And the moment you realize this, something lightens. Something breathes again. You start to smile at life. Not because it's perfect, but because it's sacred, even in its chaos. The trees do not strive to be taller than one another. They grow because it is their nature to grow. The clouds do not try to be more beautiful than the others. They float because they are free. And you, if you can remember, were once like that. As a child, you didn't have to be taught how to be curious or how to laugh. You didn't strive to be yourself. You just were. That naturalness, that spontaneity is not gone. It's just been buried under layers of thought, fear, and identity. But it waits for you, quietly beneath the noise. It's just been buried under layers of thought, fear, and identity. But it waits for you, quietly beneath all of the noise. You begin to see that there's no need to struggle so hard to become something more. You are already more than enough. Because what you are is not a fragment, not a broken piece, but the entire universe exploring itself from a single perspective. Every moment is an invitation to remember. Every breath is a reminder. You are not watching the show, you are the show. You are not searching for truth, you are the truth dressed up in temporary form, forgetting itself just enough to rediscover the joy of the game. So let yourself breathe, let yourself rest. The universe is not waiting for your perfection, it is enjoying your imperfection. Because even that is part of the great unfolding. You are not a mistake, you are not a burden, you are not separate. You are it, all of it. Just look. Life is not a problem to be solved. It's a dance to be enjoyed. This is something we often forget in our quest to make sense of everything. From the moment we become aware of ourselves, we are taught to treat life like a riddle, a puzzle that must be cracked, an equation that demands a solution. We search for purpose, for meaning, for structure. We fear mistakes, we plan for the future, and we analyze the past. We pile layers of seriousness over the experience of simply being. But life was never meant to be approached like a problem. It was never meant to be dissected and reduced. It was meant to be lived, danced, sung, laughed through. When you listen to music, you don't race to get to the end of the song. You don't ask what's the meaning of this chord, or how does this note serve my future? No. You move with it. You feel it. You allow yourself to be carried. The purpose of music is not its conclusion. It is the experience itself, note by note, moment by moment. Life is like that. We imagine that success, happiness, enlightenment, or some distant goal will complete us. But when you reach the top of the mountain you've been climbing for years, what do you find? More sky. And you realize it was never about reaching the summit. It was about the climb, the journey, the view, the stumbles, the moments of wonder, the people you met, the stars you watched along the way. We're conditioned to think in terms of problems and solutions. If something feels off, we must fix it. If we feel anxious, we must escape it. If we are uncertain, we must quickly find an answer. But in reality, most of life's beauty lives in the uncertainty, in the not knowing, in the flow. Problems only arise when we treat life as something that must be controlled or mastered. But the river does not ask for direction, and the wind does not apologize for changing course. They move because it is their nature to move. And if you observe them closely, you'll notice something. They are never anxious about where they're going. They simply go. They follow the current of their life. They follow the thread of their life. They follow the thread of their life. So many people miss the dance of life because they're too busy preparing for it. They think, I'll enjoy myself when I have more money, when I've achieved more, when I've figured things out. But by then, life may have already passed them by. The dance was happening the whole time, and they were too busy watching their feet. The truth is, life is happening now. In this breath, in this heartbeat, in the space between thoughts, this very moment is where the music plays. And to enjoy it, you don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to let go a little. You just need to move with it. Dancing doesn't demand logic. It asks for presence. It asks you to feel. The same is true with life. There's a certain grace in surrender, in allowing yourself to be as you are, without trying to fix, improve, or control every moment. It's not about giving up. It's about giving in. Not to chaos, but to rhythm, to trust, to the idea that perhaps the universe knows the steps even when you don't. And when you trust, when you stop fighting with reality and start moving with it, something miraculous happens. You come alive. You begin to notice beauty where you once saw burden. You begin to notice beauty when you once saw burden. You begin to breathe. Look around. No flower is straining to bloom. No cloud is forcing its way across the sky. The trees are not racing to outgrow each other. Nature dances. We forget to enjoy. It's often the heavy weight of analysis, and yet we humans, so obsessed with thought and reason, often forget to be simple. We forget to enjoy. And when you really look at it, this desire to solve life is rooted in fear. We are afraid of doing it wrong. We are afraid of wasting time. We are afraid of not being enough. But those fears dissolve the moment we step into the present. In the present, there is no problem to fix, only life to live. In the present, the dance begins. And when you realize that, You don't need to carry the past or dread the future. You just need to sway with the music of now. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes chaotic, sometimes loud, but it is always yours. Life will still bring storms, but even in the storm there is rhythm. Even in sorrow there is a kind of sacred movement. You don't have to be joyful to dance. You only have to be open. Open to the rawness, the uncertainty, the silence between beats. And sometimes the most profound dances are not performed in grand halls, but in quiet rooms, where a heart breaks open and begins again. You see, every emotion has its music, every season its step. There is no wrong move, only movement itself. When you stop treating life like a problem, you stop treating yourself like a problem. You stop thinking, I should be different. And instead ask, can I be with this? And from that place, love arises, not the kind you chase or earn, but the kind that lives within all things, the love that doesn't need words, the love that simply watches, listens, breathes. That love is the dancer and the dance in motion. It is the stillness in motion. And it has never left you. It's been guiding you all along, gently whispering, you are already home. So rather than trying to solve everything, just be here, be present. Notice the light falling across the floor. Feel the air moving across your skin. Hear the silence between the sounds. That's where life is. Not in the solving, not in the arriving, but in the living, in the letting go, in the letting be, in the dance. The illusion of control creates the burden of anxiety. From a very young age, we are led to believe that if we just try hard enough, plan well enough, and stay vigilant enough, we can make life bend to our will. We are taught to grip tightly to the steering wheel of existence, convinced that if we loosen our grip even slightly, chaos will erupt. This mindset, though it appears empowering on the surface, often becomes a source of immense suffering. It puts us in constant conflict with life's natural rhythms. We become exhausted, not by what is happening around us, but by our relentless need to manage, calculate, and control every outcome. Control is seductive. It gives the mind a false sense of safety. When we think we are in control, we believe we can avoid pain, failure, and disappointment. But life does not move according to our strategies. It is too vast, too alive, too wild to be boxed in by our careful blueprints. And the more we try to control it, the more it slips through our fingers like water. Anxiety grows in the space between how we think life should be and how it actually unfolds. When we believe it's our job to force things into place, every twist and turn becomes a threat. We live in a state of hypervigilance, constantly watching, calculating, bracing for the next wave. But the waves will come no matter how tightly you hold on. And it's not your job to stop them. It's your role to learn how to float. What if the anxiety you carry isn't coming from the events themselves, but from your resistance to them? What if life isn't something to fight against, but something to flow with? Imagine how much lighter you would feel if you didn't have to hold it all together, if you didn't need to predict every outcome, if you didn't view uncertainty as a threat, but as a creative space where something new can emerge. That's the beauty of surrender. It's not weakness. It's not giving up. It's the quiet confidence of knowing that the river knows where it's going, even if you don't. We suffer most when we believe we are alone in our struggle. We imagine that we must figure it all out, solve every problem, fix every flaw, and protect ourselves from every danger. But we are not isolated fragments lost in a chaotic world. We are threads in a grand tapestry, each moment woven together with meaning that transcends logic. When you trust that you are part of something greater, something intelligent and mysterious, you begin to loosen the grip, you begin to breathe, and in that breath there is peace. There is a certain arrogance in thinking we can control it all. It comes from fear, of course, a fear of vulnerability, of being exposed to life's unpredictability. But control is a mask we wear when we don't trust life to support us, and that mask becomes heavy over time. It blocks us from intimacy, spontaneity, and joy. It keeps us from truly living, because to live is to risk. To live is to dance with the unknown, and no dance is ever beautiful when it's forced. The grace of life is found in the sway, not in the grip. Think of the moments when you've felt most alive. Were they carefully planned, or did they arrive unannounced, surprising you with their beauty? The best laughter, the deepest connections, the most profound insights often come when you're not trying so hard. They sneak in through the cracks when you're not looking. And that's the point. Life doesn't ask for your control. It asks for your presence. It asks you to be here, to feel, to witness, to participate, not to dominate. When we let go of the illusion of control, we don't fall apart. We fall into rhythm. We start to notice the subtleties of life, the quiet synchronicities, the unexpected blessings, the gentle nudges that were always there but drowned out by our mental noise. We begin to see that even our challenges are not punishments but invitations. They ask us to grow, to soften, to trust. The universe isn't working against us. It's working through us. And our job isn't to outsmart it. It's to align with it. Of course, the mind will resist this. It will scream, but what if something goes wrong? And something might. Life isn't perfect. But trying to control it doesn't make it safer. It only makes you suffer more when the inevitable happens. Surrender is not about passivity. It's about choosing where your energy goes. Do you pour it into fear or into faith? Do you spend your days building walls or learning how to dance in the rain? To release control is to remember that you were never meant to carry the weight of the world. The trees are not worried about their next bloom. The moon does not stress over its orbit. The birds do not panic about the wind, they move with it. And you too can remember how to move with it. Beneath all your strategies and plans is a deeper intelligence that knows what to do. It's the same intelligence that heals your wounds, that beats your heart, that brings you dreams in your sleep. It is not separate from you, it is you. When you stop trying to control everything, you make space for that deeper wisdom to guide you. This does not mean you become reckless or lazy. It means you stop trying to wrestle life into your version of how it should be and start learning how to participate in what is. You begin to trust that what needs to happen will happen, and that your role is not to force, but to respond, to listen, to flow. And in that flowing, you find clarity, you find peace. Not the peace of everything going your way, but the peace of knowing you don't have to fight it anymore. You can lay down your armor. You can breathe without needing to predict what comes next. You can show up to your life with open hands, knowing that the more you trust, the more life reveals its magic. Because when you stop controlling, you start seeing. You see the beauty in the chaos, the wisdom in the silence, the sacredness in the ordinary. You stop chasing and start receiving. And that receiving, that openness, that surrender is where your freedom lives. Everything is real, but nothing is serious. That might sound like a contradiction at first. How can something be real and not serious at the same time? But look a little closer, and you'll begin to see the quiet wisdom hidden inside that statement. Life, in all its colors and chaos, its tragedy and triumph, is undeniably real to the senses. You can feel the weight of disappointment, the sting of betrayal, the rush of joy and the warmth of love. These experiences are vivid, potent, and deeply felt. But being real doesn't mean they must be carried with such heaviness. Being real doesn't mean they must be treated as the absolute truth of your identity, or that every emotion or circumstance defines the totality of your existence. Reality is a stage, a beautifully crafted set with brilliant actors and ever-shifting scenes. But it is still a play, a cosmic performance meant not to trap you, but to move through you. We often confuse intensity with importance. Just because something feels powerful doesn't mean it has to become the center of our world. Think of a thunderstorm. When it rolls in, it fills the sky with sound and fury, but it passes, and the sky remains. Your emotions are like that. The events of your life are like that. They come, they swirl, they teach, and they leave. But you, the awareness behind it all, you remain. When you understand that the storm is real but temporary, you begin to watch instead of panic. You begin to listen instead of resist, and in that watching, that listening, you begin to relax into the truth that life is unfolding exactly as it must, without requiring your fear, your control, or your over-analysis. Children understand this better than most adults. When a child plays, they are fully in the moment. The world they create in their imagination is entirely real to them. Castles, dragons, invisible friends. But if someone interrupts their play, they don't cling to it as if it were eternal. They simply shift, adapt, move on to the next adventure. Their laughter is genuine, their tears honest, but none of it is rooted in heaviness. They don't carry yesterday's wounds into today's game. They understand instinctively what we forget. Life is meant to be felt, not controlled. It is meant to be lived, not survived. It is meant to be witnessed, not over-interpreted. When we take life too seriously, we become prisoners of our own projections. We assign permanent meaning to temporary moments. A breakup becomes proof that we are unlovable. A failure becomes a verdict that we are incapable. A rejection becomes a story of our inadequacy. And on it goes. We become entangled in our own narratives, forgetting that the play goes on, that new acts await, and that no scene defines the entire script. We forget that we can rewrite, reinterpret, and even laugh at the parts that once made us cry. Laughter itself is one of the greatest teachers. Think about the times you've laughed the hardest. Weren't they often born out of chaos, out of things going wrong, misunderstandings, surprises? Laughter arises when we suddenly realize the absurdity of taking things so seriously. It's a release, a break in the clouds that reminds us not to grip so tightly. Even in grief, laughter has a place. It doesn't deny the pain. It simply balances it with perspective. It says, yes, this hurts, but even this will pass. And in time, this too will be a story, a lesson, a memory. There is a strange kind of freedom in understanding that nothing needs to be as heavy as we make it. You can feel everything fully without letting it define you. You can be deeply moved by life without being broken by it. You can weep without collapsing, love without possessing, lose without despairing. Because behind every moment is a deeper truth. The play goes on. The music never stops. You are not here to win or lose. You are here to dance. Seriousness creeps in when we forget who we are. When we believe we are just this body, this role, this situation. But when we remember, even for a breath, that we are consciousness itself, playing a role for a little while, everything softens. You begin to see the beauty in the mess, the art in the confusion. You begin to notice the irony, the humor, the strange grace that underlies even your darkest days. You begin to laugh, not because life is always funny, but because you realize you don't have to carry it like a burden. Even our greatest spiritual teachings often come wrapped in paradox. They tell us to care deeply but not to cling, to love fully but not to possess, to be present but not attached. These aren't contradictions. They are invitations to dance on the edge of reality, to feel everything without becoming overwhelmed by anything, to live like a flame, burning bright, warm and wild, knowing that the flicker is part of the beauty, not a flaw. When you stop treating every challenge as a personal attack, when you stop needing everything to have a neat explanation, you begin to experience a kind of lightness. Life becomes more spacious. You realize you don't need to understand everything to be at peace. You don't need to know the ending to enjoy the scene you're in. Life becomes more spacious. You realize you don't need to understand everything to be at peace. You've been in it from the beginning. There is something deeply liberating about realizing you can just let go. Not let go in the sense of ignoring life, but in the sense of no longer trying to control its rhythm, no longer treating every moment as a battle to win or a puzzle to solve. Let go into the knowing that everything is real, yes, but none of it needs to weigh you down. You are free to engage, to love, to feel, to fall, to rise again, because it's all part of the play, all part of the unfolding mystery, all part of the great cosmic joke. Relax. Let go of the frantic dance you do with your thoughts, with your expectations, with the anxious whisper that tells you you are falling behind. There's a marvelous irony at play here. The more you struggle to stay afloat, the more you sink. Just watch the way a person drowns when they flail. In stillness, you discover your buoyancy. So let yourself be still for a moment. Take a breath that you do not chase, a breath that arises by itself, that leaves by itself. Notice that life breathes you, whether or not you believe you're in control. We spend so much of our lives tangled up in stories about who we should be, what we should have achieved by now, where we should be going. The self becomes a project, always under construction, never complete. And in this relentless building, we forget that underneath all the scaffolding, there's already something whole, something exquisitely complete. You. Not the idea of you, but the living pulse of you. Here, in this very instant. When you relax, you give this deeper self a chance to breathe. And what happens when you turn inward not with judgment or criticism, but with a gentle curiosity, you begin to see that the fears, the ambitions, the guilt, and the old wounds, they're like clouds passing across the vast sky of your awareness. They are not the sky. They simply drift through. You don't have to chase them away. You don't have to hold on to them either. Just let them be, and they move on their own. There is great power in allowing things to be as they are. Focus on yourself, not in the sense of becoming more selfish, but in the sense of becoming more honest with your own experience. Feel what it is to be you, before any labels, before any roles. Feel the sensation of your hands, the quiet thrum of your heart, the breath rising and falling. In this simple attention, you reconnect with something that was never lost, only overlooked. From this ground, you can grow again, not as someone feverishly trying to improve, but as a natural unfolding. Just as a tree does not strive to reach upward, it simply grows because that is its nature. Life has this astonishing rhythm. It moves in cycles, tides of high and low, periods of bloom and periods of apparent dormancy. To think that you are meant to always be soaring is to misunderstand the profound intelligence of these seasons. Sometimes you fall so that you might discover hidden depths in yourself. Sometimes you break so that light can enter through the cracks. And without even knowing how, you find yourself rising again, not by force, but by the quiet insistence of life itself moving through you. So relax. Focus on the aliveness within you. Trust that in your own time, in your own way, you will rise again. Relax, because rising and stop struggling against life's very fabric of what you are. By letting go, you allow yourself to float rather than sink. Consider for a moment how often you tense up, brace yourself, or fight against what is. It happens almost automatically. Your shoulders tighten, your breath becomes shallow, your mind races to solve or resist. In this state, everything feels heavier, more urgent, more threatening. It's like someone who has fallen into water and panics, thrashing arms and legs in all directions, exhausting themselves until they begin to drown. Yet water is not the enemy. In fact, it will hold you if you simply allow it. If you stop fighting, spread your arms gently, tilt your head back, let your body be light. The water cradles you effortlessly. Floating happens not by effort, but by surrender. This is the paradox at the center of life's flow. So much of your suffering is not because of circumstances themselves, but because of the tight knot of resistance inside you. You think if you let go, things will fall apart. That if you stop worrying, you'll lose your edge. If you stop struggling, somehow life will punish you. But look deeper. Has all your struggle actually brought you peace? Has anxiety ever secured your future? Has tense striving ever made your heart truly light? More often than not, it only leaves you weary, drained, and even more entangled in problems that were never fully yours to control. Relaxation is not laziness. It is not indifference. It is the profound trust that life knows what it is doing, that there is a deeper order, a silent intelligence that operates through all things, including you. Just as your heart beats without your command, your lungs draw air without your interference, the trees blossom and shed their leaves in perfect rhythm, so too is there an unfolding within you that does not require your constant pushing. By relaxing, you give this deeper process room to work. Imagine a small boat on a river. The current is moving steadily downstream. If you try to paddle upstream in a panic, fearing where the current might take you, you exhaust yourself, you make little progress, and your journey is filled with strain. But if you set your oars inside the boat and trust the current, you will find that the river carries you, sometimes gently, sometimes swiftly, yet always onward. In the same way, when you stop resisting, when you stop trying to outthink or outmaneuver life, you discover that you are already moving, already being guided by a force much larger and wiser than your narrow plans. Letting go does not mean you do nothing. It means you act from a place of calm clarity rather than panic. It means you do what is needed in the moment, without gripping at outcomes or wrestling with imaginary disasters. There is a quality of grace in this. Like a dancer who moves with the music rather than against it, you find yourself responding fluidly to life, guided by an intuitive sense of timing and proportion. This is very different from rigidly trying to control every note of the song. Notice how when you are relaxed, your vision opens up. You see more possibilities, you hear more subtle cues, your body is more responsive, your mind more inventive. Tension narrows you, it creates blinders. Relaxation expands you, makes space for insights to surface, for creativity to blossom. It is often in moments of ease, a walk in nature, a quiet evening with nothing pressing to do, sitting in stillness, that the very solutions you were straining to find suddenly appear, because you are no longer clogging the channel with frantic noise. Animals understand this without needing philosophy. Watch a cat or a bird. It does not tense itself into action. It waits, poised and supple, perfectly relaxed, until the right moment comes, and then it springs with precision. Humans have made an art out of being perpetually braced, always preparing for threats that mostly exist only in imagination. Yet if you experiment with softening your shoulders, unclenching your jaw, loosening the grip of your thoughts, you'll start to feel an unexpected support beneath you. This trust grows slowly. At first it feels risky, as though dropping your guard will surely lead to disaster. But in time you begin to realize that relaxation does not make you vulnerable in the way you feared. It makes you resilient. It opens you to respond more wisely rather than react out of habit. When challenges arise, you meet them with the energy you need, not with the drained remnants of constant tension. And when there is no real danger, you conserve your life force instead of squandering it on needless worry. Think again of water. A stiff, rigid body sinks. A soft, relaxed body floats. The water hasn't changed. What changes is your relationship to it. Life is like this too. It is not always calm or predictable. There will be waves, there will be storms. But if you can trust enough to loosen your rigid defenses, to let yourself be carried even for a moment, you discover an unexpected buoyancy. You begin to realize that life is not fundamentally against you, that there is a quiet undercurrent of support running through everything, and a unity in everything. It is this subtle shift from struggling against to relaxing into that transforms how you experience your days. It doesn't eliminate all difficulties, but it changes the texture of how you move through them. You become less like a clenched fist striking out at the world, more like an open hand ready to receive, to hold, to let go. And in this openness, there is an ease that no amount of force could ever bring you. Recognize that who you truly are is already whole beneath all your fears, expectations, and self-judgments. It's a curious thing, how from the moment we begin to form thoughts about ourselves, we also start building a kind of imaginary self, a collection of ideas, memories, opinions, roles, and stories. I am this, I am not that, I should be more like this. I failed at that. We become tangled in this web of mental fabrications, convinced that these fragile constructs are the substance of our being. And so we live always slightly on the outside of ourselves, comparing, doubting, measuring, chasing an image of what we think we ought to be. Beneath all of this noise, however, there is something far simpler and more profound, something that does not require improvement or validation, something that simply is. Before you learned your name, before anyone told you who you were supposed to be, there was already an aliveness, a pure presence looking out through your eyes, feeling through your skin, sensing the wonder of existence. That aliveness is still here, unchanged by any of the labels or judgments that came later. The mind, in its endless activity, spins stories about lack and incompleteness. It says you are not enough because you haven't achieved some goal yet, or because you made mistakes, or because you don't fit someone else's standards. It builds elaborate arguments about why you must keep striving, fixing, polishing yourself into something acceptable. But who set these standards? Who decided you must reach a certain height before you can rest in your own being? When you look closely, you see that most of these ideas were inherited from others, from society, from culture, from fearful voices that didn't know any better. Must have, believe, 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 believe. This is not to say that growth and learning are meaningless. Far from it. Life expresses itself through evolution and exploration. But there is a crucial difference between growing because it is your natural impulse to unfold and explore versus striving frantically from a belief that you are fundamentally deficient. The first is like a flower opening to the sun. Effortless, joyful, inevitable. The second is like trying to force a bud open before its time, only to bruise the delicate petals. Deep down, who you truly are does not need to be earned, it does not need to be proven, it is not a product of your achievements or your failures. It simply exists, quietly radiant beneath all your surface concerns. When you begin to sense this, even faintly, there is a loosening inside. A gentle warmth spreads through you. You realize you do not have to work so hard to become someone else. You can relax into what you already are. It is remarkable how much energy is spent on defending or promoting a false image. Think of all the time you have spent worrying about how others perceive you, replaying conversations, rehearsing explanations. Imagine if even a fraction of that energy were freed up by seeing that none of it changes the fundamental reality of your being. Opinions shift like the wind. Sometimes people approve of you, sometimes they do not. Sometimes you are praised, sometimes criticized. But this is all surface weather. Beneath it, the core of you remains untouched. You do not become whole by accumulating accomplishments. or perfecting yourself according to someone else's blueprint. You become aware of your wholeness by stripping away what is false, what is borrowed, what is merely habitual. You notice the quiet aliveness that exists regardless of circumstances. Even in your most insecure moments, even when fear grips you, even when you feel completely lost, that underlying presence is still there. It has always been there. To recognize this is not an intellectual exercise. It is something you feel in the stillness when you stop chasing thoughts for just a moment. Perhaps it comes when you are sitting quietly watching a sunset or listening to the sound of rain. For a brief instant you are simply present without trying to be anything special. In that moment there is no lack, there is no flaw to be fixed. There is only the vivid immediacy of being. Many people overlook this because it is so ordinary, so close. The mind is addicted to drama, to complicated problems that must be solved. The simplicity of simply being seems uninteresting by comparison. But this simplicity is actually the treasure you have been seeking under many disguises. It holds a peace that striving cannot deliver. When you start to see that your true nature is whole, you also begin to treat yourself more gently. You are less harsh with your mistakes, less desperate for applause. You can still learn, still grow, still pursue your dreams, but from a place of inner sufficiency rather than a gnawing sense of inadequacy. This changes everything. Your actions become expressions of curiosity and love, not desperate attempts to fill an imagined void. And as you recognize your own inherent completeness, you also see it in others. You are less inclined to judge or compete. You realize that every person, beneath their own masks of fear and desire, carries this same luminous core. This softens you, makes you more compassionate. You see that everyone is fumbling toward this same recognition, each in their own stumbling way. So let yourself rest for a while from the project of self-improvement, not because growth is wrong, but because you don't need to become someone else in order to be worthy of your own love. Beneath all the striving, beneath the anxious comparison and self-doubt, there is already something quietly magnificent. Let yourself feel it, even if only for a breath. Let yourself notice the wholeness that has always been here, waiting patiently for you to remember. Observe your thoughts and emotions with gentle awareness, letting them pass like clouds across a vast sky. This is one of the simplest yet most profound invitations life offers you, and yet it is often overlooked because it is so subtle. From the moment you wake in the morning until you close your eyes at night, there is a continuous stream of thoughts, images, memories, speculations, and judgments moving through your mind. Like a river that never stops flowing, it carries all kinds of debris. Old regrets, future worries, sudden desires, petty irritations, grand ambitions, half-formed dreams. Most people are swept along by this current without ever realizing they are not the river itself. To observe means to step back ever so slightly, to allow a small space between what you are experiencing and the awareness that notices the experience. In this space, something remarkable happens. You begin to see that thoughts are simply thoughts. Feelings are simply feelings. They rise, they have a certain lifespan, and then they dissolve. None of them are permanent. None of them ultimately define who or what you are. Imagine lying in a meadow on a warm afternoon, gazing up at the sky. Clouds drift lazily across the blue expanse. Some are light and wispy, some dark and heavy with rain. Some seem to take on strange shapes that capture your attention. But you do not try to grasp them. You do not chase after them. You simply watch. And whether they stay a moment or seem to linger, you know they will eventually move on, carried by winds beyond your control. This is precisely how your thoughts and feelings move through the space of your awareness. The trouble is that instead of watching them come and go, you often leap up and start chasing the clouds, trying to capture them or push them away. A worry arises, and immediately you plunge into it, spinning stories, projecting catastrophic outcomes, feeding it with attention until it grows larger than life. Or a painful memory surfaces, and instead of allowing it to pass through, you replay it again and again, building a shrine to your hurt. Or perhaps a bright, hopeful idea appears, and you clutch at it desperately, afraid that if you do not hold on tight, it will vanish, leaving you empty-handed. In doing so, you become entangled. The spacious sky is forgotten. All you see is the cloud right in front of your face, obscuring everything else. Your sense of freedom contracts. You become identified with the passing phenomena, believing they are solid and fixed, that they hold power over you. And so you ride the roller coaster of your own mental weather, up and down, tossed this way and that, never realizing you could simply be the sky, wide and open, allowing everything, yet clinging to nothing. Gentle awareness is the key. It is not about forcibly stopping thoughts or suppressing feelings. It is not about judging them as bad or trying to replace them with better ones. It is simply seeing them for what they are, transient movements in the field of consciousness. A fear might arise. Notice how it feels in your body, how your stomach tightens or your breath shortens. Watch it without needing to change it. A moment later, it may shift, soften, or give way to a completely different sensation. This kind of observation is an act of profound self-kindness. Instead of harsh scrutiny, it is more like the way you would sit with a child who is upset, present, patient, not taking their storm personally. You give space for whatever comes. You become a compassionate witness to your own inner life. And in this witnessing, something begins to loosen. The fear, the anger, the sadness. These states lose some of their grip because they are no longer being fueled by unconscious identification. They are simply guests visiting the house of your awareness, staying for a time before moving on. Even pleasant states can be allowed to come and go. Joy, excitement, inspiration. They too are clouds. Often people try to hold on to them, to trap the beautiful moments and make them last forever. But this clinging only creates tension and inevitably leads to disappointment when the natural impermanence of all things asserts itself. When you observe even the bright, airy clouds with the same spacious acceptance, you are free to enjoy them fully while they are present, without the anxiety of needing them to stay. Through this practice of gentle observation, you come to rest in something deeper than any passing thought or feeling. You discover an inner stillness, a witnessing awareness that is not disturbed by what moves across its surface. This does not make you cold or detached. On the contrary, it allows you to be more intimately connected with life because you are no longer defending yourself against your own inner world. You become like an open field where all weather is welcome, knowing that the field itself is not harmed by storms or bright sun, it simply experiences them. that by giving them up, you actually experience them with them as they are. As this way of seeing matures, there is a growing sense of trust. You realize that you do not have to control everything that arises within you. The mind can spin stories, the heart can surge with powerful emotions, the body can pulse with energy, and all of it is part of the rich tapestry of being alive. None of it has to be resisted or clung to. It all has permission to exist and to pass in its own time. This trust is deeply liberating. You are no longer at the mercy of your moods or the endless chatter of thought. You can move through your days with a quiet confidence that no matter what appears, fear, sadness, joy, confusion, it will not overwhelm you, because you know it is just another cloud passing through the vast sky of your being. And in this gentle spaciousness, life becomes far less about fixing or chasing, and far more about simply experiencing moment by unfolding moment. Turn your attention inward and reconnect with your living presence beyond roles, labels, or striving. So much of life is spent outwardly directed, pouring your energy into what others think of you, into responsibilities, tasks, comparisons, ambitions. From childhood you were taught who you were supposed to be: good student, obedient child, successful adult. The world layered countless identities on you, and you dutifully carried them, hoping they would prove your worth. Somewhere along the way, the silent, vibrant sense of simply being alive slipped into the background. It was replaced by a constant mental commentary. Am I enough yet? Do they approve? What should I become next? Yet underneath all of this mental noise, something astonishing remains untouched. There is a simple, immediate awareness, this quiet, watchful aliveness that is here right now, reading these words. It does not need to be manufactured or improved. It does not belong to any particular story about who you are. It is just here, prior to any identity. When you turn inward, not to think about yourself in the usual analytical way, but to feel this gentle hum of existence, you start to reconnect with something profoundly real. Try noticing what it feels like to exist in this moment without immediately jumping to ideas about yourself. Feel the weight of your body on the chair. Sense the subtle movement of your breath. Notice the warmth in your hands, the soft tingling in your feet. All of this is happening without any effort on your part. Before the mind rushes in to label or judge, there is a pure, direct experience of being alive. This is what many overlook as they chase after ideas of what they should be. Roles and labels can be useful in the practical world. You are a parent, a friend, a colleague, a citizen, but they are not the whole of you. They are like garments you put on for specific occasions. If you mistake the clothing for your actual skin, you begin to live entirely for appearances, constantly adjusting your costume to suit the crowd. Underneath all these roles, you are still here, utterly yourself, whether acknowledged or not. This is the presence you meet when you turn inward in a spirit of openness. It may feel awkward at first because you are so accustomed to relating to yourself through thoughts, opinions, and judgments. But gently, patiently, you can begin to drop beneath this surface chatter. Not by force, not by pushing thoughts away, but by allowing your attention to sink into the felt sense of being. If thoughts come, let them drift by like leaves on a stream, returning again and again to the quiet intimacy of simply existing. Notice how in these moments of inward attention there is nothing lacking, You do not need to perform or achieve anything. You do not have to explain yourself. You are simply here. This is remarkably freeing. The mind may insist that you must be doing more, becoming more, fixing something, but deeper than these urgings is a calm presence that requires no improvement. This presence is whole, untouched by praise or blame. It was here before anyone told you who to be. As you spend more time turning inward like this, you begin to see how much unnecessary strain comes from trying to live up to images. The striving, the comparison, the chasing, they lose some of their urgency because you are no longer trying to derive your sense of worth from external validation. You start to recognize that the only true validation comes from resting in your own direct experience of being alive. Everything else is fleeting. Compliments come and go, criticism rises and falls, successes shine for a moment and then fade. But this inner presence is constant, quietly abiding through it all. From this place, action becomes very different. Instead of being driven by a frantic need to prove yourself, you move from a sense of completeness. You work, create, help, explore, not to fill a void, but as a natural expression of the life that flows through you. Even your ambitions take on a new flavor. They become playful, curious, no longer so burdened by desperation. You can genuinely enjoy learning, growing, achieving, because you are not using these things as substitutes for your own inherent worth. They are simple, inherent, which relationships also begin to change. When you are rooted in your own being, you are less needy for others to affirm you. You can love more freely, listen more deeply, give without hidden expectations. You see others not merely as roles they play for you, but as fellow expressions of life, each carrying their own silent mystery. In this way,